Yo, what is up guys? Welcome to my F123 settings. Today I'm gonna show you my settings that I'm gonna be using on F123. I've played the game for already around 100 hours, so I pretty much have tested quite a few of these settings already. And of course, the settings carry over from last year's game simply because the game engine stays the same and there's just no need for the developers to change these kind of things. Now, assist, obviously, I use no assist, always everything off. Time trial settings doesn't really apply, of course. If you want someone's rivals ghost or telemetry, you can turn it on. I always keep it off because I just find it annoying. So onto camera customization, and I am using TV pod offset simply because I like that view more. I started using this at the end of last game already, and I just like the FOV more. As you can see, they're -20 on the FOV, and if I go to the TV pod, I also couldn't see my steering wheel in the bottom, which is something I like to see, at least the top of it. So -20 on the field of view. Offset lateral is obviously to make it straight, so make sure that if you use TV pod offset, that you put offset on -12, offset lateral, sorry. Horizontal and vertical 0, angle -11. Near clip plane is just to make sure that if you put it too far backwards, that you can't see the roll bar above the car. Because I think if I put it to -20 at some point, it's not the case with this view, but in certain views, you'll be able to see the roll bar, which is really annoying because it's just moving around. So make sure to put it as high as possible if you are seeing that roll bar. Mirror angle 0, again, you can just adjust that to your liking. Don't really use it anyway in TV pod offset. So I just keep it on 0. Camera shake, camera movement. Make sure to keep that on 0 both. Camera movement is not a thing in TV pod offset. And look to apex limit is something that you can only use in cockpit. Again, in my opinion, keep it on 0, no matter what camera you use. With all 3 of these, make sure to keep them on 0 because they're just annoying. Of course, you're moving your head in real life already, looking into corners, and then if it's also happening on screen, I think it's just distracting. So, onto the on-screen display. Of course, make sure to use full track map because I think it's just easier in like qualifying sessions to predict where you're gonna get traffic on your out lap or preparing your lap. So in my opinion, always use full track map. Now this is obviously depending on where you live, kilometers or Celsius. And then on-screen display is handy for cockpit users because in previous years I think you didn't have the MFD in the bottom right if you had that turned off. So make sure to turn that on. Virtual rear view mirror, I don't like it because you cannot change the FOV of it. I've seen a lot of questions asking why you're not using virtual rear view mirror, and it's just simple because I can't adjust the FOV. So I would rather just look back because I've got a button that I can comfortably reach. So I just use that instead of the virtual rear view mirror. Of course, on iRacing and stuff, people do use that, but you can change the FOV, which helps a lot. So yeah, permanent session timer, very important to keep that on, especially for league races, because this way you can plan your runs, you can check how much time is left at all times. Otherwise, you can only see the final 5 minutes. So I like to plan my runs very nicely, so I always want to have it on. But yeah, let's go to the OSD customization. And as you can see here, I've made some changes. In the top left, the driver names and the lap count, I've moved them all the way up to the left. I think at some point I'm even going to make them smaller because I was still noticing in some long left-hand corners, like on Las Vegas right here, that it was blocking the apex side. I couldn't move the top right stuff with the delta and the positions. I couldn't move that up, and I don't know why. I'm not sure if that's a bug or not, but I would like to change that, but I simply cannot. Then on the bottom, where the gear selection is, I just have moved that slightly up so it's above my steering wheel. So not a lot of changes, just the top left driver name stuff and the lap count and the gear stuff, where you can see the kilometers and the revs, the overtake button. I've moved it slightly up so I can see the steering wheel better in-game. Then onto the calibration. I've kept this all default. Of course, if your brake is dragging, a really easy fix is to put a dead zone on right here. You need to make sure your brake is dragging because it's very common in sim racing and it just loses you so much time. I even had it in the past where my brake was dragging and I could not figure out why I was 2/10 of the pace to my previous PB. And just because my brake was dragging like 1%. So very important to keep that in mind. Steering rate, I've not even tried changing that, but I think that's mainly for controller players actually, where if you turn it up, the car just responds faster and vice versa. On the force feedback settings, I've kept this the same in-game for like forever. Always, of course, changing the force feedback strength depending on what wheel I'm using. Usually I want to use a Simicube, but now for F1 Esports we always have to drive on Fanatec. So on Simicube I'm on around 50, sometimes maybe even a little bit lower if I'm 100% in the profile settings of Simicube. On Fanatec I'm the maximum in wheel and 70 in game, and then I keep the rest all on 0, every single one of them. So 300 degrees steering rotation is something I've used for the past few years, and I just like to keep it that way. It feels comfortable. It is maybe a little bit on the aggressive side, but I think you can change that from 270, which obviously the car will respond very aggressively if you put it on 270, to 360 degrees, I think is the highest you should go on F1 games. And then obviously for the supercars you need 900, although they never seem to line up the wheel and in-game, I don't know why. Then onto the graphic settings. Of course, for esports and league races, I always use the lowest settings possible in the graphics. I always just put the detail presets to ultra low. But if you want to use high, I recommend putting it to ultra high or high. But if you use ultra high, put ray traced off, because it just causes input delay, in my opinion. It might be different per computer, of course, but I've always felt like this would harm FPS so much and it would just cause so much input delay, which in racing is just incredibly annoying. So I recommend keeping that off. Now motion blur strength, obviously put that to 0, because it's just distracting, same as the camera shake that I was talking earlier about. Just distracting, unnecessary, in my opinion. Steering animation, of course, if you're in cockpit cam, it might be where if you turn, the steering wheel is blocking your view, so you can turn steering animation off if you would like. Not a lot of people do it. I knew one F1 Esports driver who used to do it, which is James Baldwin, but I think unless you're using cockpit cam, you don't really need it. So now onto the video mode settings then. Resolution, I'm on 1440p, but it depends on your monitor. Also, if you are struggling with FPS and you are on 1600p, 1440p, you can try and put it to 1080p because that would give you slightly more FPS, of course. So obviously makes sense for many of you, but might not make sense to others. So just a quick little tip there. VSync, make sure to turn it off, causes input delay. It's just annoying. VSync interval, I always keep that on 1. Always feels the best. Refresh rate, put it as high as possible, because it just looks so much better. You just need the highest possible, especially for racing, because the screen is moving so fast, of course, and you want absolutely the fastest refresh rate possible. FPS, I've just got it capped at 240, and then these ones, I always keep them on these specific settings because they look the best. If I put them lower, I don't gain FPS as well. So anisotropic filtering, 16x, anti-aliasing on TNA, and Fidelity FX sharpening. This combination, it just looks beautiful. Like, I can't explain it. I've tested all of them every single time I get to these two, even on past F1 games, also on this one. So I recommend you guys to do the same, but it's up to you guys, of course. Now, audio settings, I've put music to 0, of course, because otherwise I run the risk of getting copyright striked when streaming or making videos. Master volume, put that down if you want every single sound to be turned down. Because yeah, that's just an easy fix. You don't have to do all of those by hand. And onboard mix, You can change that, but of course you are the driver, so you want the driver onboard mix. Speaker type, use what you're using, literally. I'm using headphones, so I've put headphones, but you can also put it on home theater, TV speakers. Just use what you're using basically as output sound. Engineer ducking, it's basically where the rest of the game sound turns lower if the engineer is speaking. So I'm gonna put that off or keep it on light. Obviously I want to keep the in-game sound as high as possible, or the optimum level. Now this is an important one. If your audio is crackling, make sure to turn audio simulation quality down, because it might be asking too much from your CPU. If I remember correctly, this was a big issue on F122, where a lot of people had where their audio went like someone was crunching a paper next to their head, and it wouldn't stop. So audio simulation quality, turn it down if your audio is crackling. Very important one if you're struggling with that. Now, if you want to have peace in your mind when driving in open lobbies, make sure to mute everyone by default, because otherwise you might have some shouting people in your open lobbies. I've always put it on. I don't want other people to hear me as well, of course. Another one, if you are late on the upshifts by accident and you're just not good natural timing your upshifts, make sure to put the upshift tone on. I've never liked it, but I know that there are real life F1 drivers that I think use it, because I know from the past on F1 simulators like 5 years ago, you had an upshift tone as well. When you had to upshift, you had a beep in your ear, which I found crazy because I thought F1 drivers didn't need it, but they used it apparently. Formation lap parking sensor, don't really need it because you can see in the formation lap what the distance is that you still need to drive to get the purple line up on the grid. Radio verbosity, I've put it to responses only because I do not want this guy to just randomly start talking shit. Play victory radio calls, I thought I had them on. I was like, why am I not hearing these anyway? I think by default they're off, but I'm definitely gonna keep them on for my team. Might have some funny ones coming up. Now music, of course, I don't use that, so I can't say anything on that. You can change the commentary.
Anthony Davidson is here once again for today's Grand Prix.
Mercedes move to the top of the table.
Okay, you can change the commentary, good for them. Play audio when games in background. Okay, yeah, not important for us. Nothing performance related. Then on the accessibility options, you can turn subtitles on. I keep them off. Voice chat, I think that is from the open lobby people shouting at you when you crash them out, I guess. Mono mix, no idea what that means. I have it on off. Tinnitus relief might be good if you've got tinnitus, of course. You can hear the little beep. I don't hear this one anymore. Does that mean I have tinnitus? Oh, I can hear it again. But yeah, let's keep it off because it's pretty annoying on the low one. Colorblind mode, of course, very handy if you use Racing Line and you are colorblind. I'm not sure if that was in the last game, but it would be a good addition if it was. Now, those were our settings for F123. I cannot go into my wheel settings of Fanatec because we are going to be racing F1 Esports on them, and I do not want to give them away. So, hope you guys learned something from this F123 settings video. Make sure to subscribe if you did, and see you guys next time. Ciao.
I'm in the AMG, no bitch, you better not